Recording again. All right, so here we go. We have a play. Let's watch it one more time for the recording's sake. We will not have audio this time. You can watch Bradshaw's doing a great job of hollering at it. Okay, so break this down. We have a bunt. We have a very close fair foul decision. As I said earlier, just remember a bunt that stops on home plate is a live fair batted ball. So in this scenario, I mean, he's pointing fair with his right hand. A point fair with his left hand would be just fine as well. But anyway, you are just pointing that ball fair so everybody understands, hey, we got a fair ball, and you have to get your eyes up for what happens next. So turns his head, and we have a errant throw, and look where the runner is. The runner is clearly inside fair territory. The ball goes over, sails over his head. Jacob's in a great position to be able to see that. And this is an immediate dead ball. He points to it and says that's interference, and he calls time. And it starts calling time. Now, this is the only critique that I think I would have for Jacob, is he's already enforcing some things, and nobody's looking at him yet because everybody's looking at the runner. He's already pointed that he's an out. So if this was me, I would have waited until this moment to finally go, time. Runner's lane interference, runner's out. But just as he's doing, runner goes back to where he was at the time of the pitch. At first look, I was like, well, he's at third. He should go back to second. Well, actually, if you look at the very beginning, the runner is definitely at first base. And so you go back to the spot where you were at the time of pitch. So here, interference go at second base or at first base, and we'll watch it one more time in full speed. Nicely done. Good job, Jacob.
So let me interject. These are my thoughts on this play.
Sure.
So one, I read bunt, and so I know what they're trying to do, and the bat, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to have a decision on the third baseline of fair foul, and it literally died, right? Because it's almost in the batter's box.
Right.
So one, I almost made it really hard on myself. Had to get a good look of, more in relation to the plate than to the actual chalk line of where this is. And, in the proximity of that, I have to worry about the batter kicking it. Does the bat drop and hit it? And my look, after I've ruled it fair, I see that the runner's in fair territory. So
right there, you can see his feet are clearly in fair territory right there even.
And we get this a lot. Especially in high school baseball, you see a lot of kids not runner's lane. But I also waited because you see the first baseman go up. In my mind, if that first baseman goes up in the air and catches it and comes down on the bag, I've got nothing. Because in reality, he did not interfere with the play. So, I'm talking to the catcher a little bit later. I go, hey, next, just hit the guy in the back.
Yep.
Because there's every potential that bunt and run, sack bunt and run could have put that guy on third base with the guy still being out.
I want to go back to this right here.
Let me play devil's advocate a second, Caleb.
Go for it.
Okay. In the slow motion replay, in my view, the catcher had already thrown the ball before the batter got to the 45-foot line, which means he cannot have interfered because he already threw the ball, and you have to interfere in order to interfere. Just because he's in the wrong place doesn't mean it's interference. And the catcher has released the ball, and that guy has not made it to the 45-foot line yet.
Well, if there was a 45-foot line on the field, marked on the field, then that's probably a really good point. And that is also equally true. So the runner's lane does mark that, and it's a great point.
Because in that stop you got there, the ball's already out of the catcher's hand, and he's not halfway to first yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's right on his fingertips. It's hard to tell, has it left or is it still in his hand? But yeah, I mean, you're right. But I mean, so there for sure it is out of his hand because there's the baseball here, and I'd say halfway is right about
Since the
here.
home team didn't mark it, they should be the one who were penalized for not having it there, and not the visitors.
Good thoughts. Yeah, I mean, if this was me on the field, I probably would have the same call. I really would. Just knowing where the runner is, that left foot, I mean, the angle of the camera, that right foot is, even though it looks close on the line, but it's probably a good foot in fair territory, which means his left foot is probably a good, 2 feet in fair territory. Just the parallax angle of the camera here doesn't do it justice. But, from this camera angle, Carl, I think you may have a point with him not being the 45-foot line completely. But I think being on the field, I probably would have called the same thing that Jacob did. So certainly a great play to look at. Let's go to the next one. So we're at this new Live Oaks Park. If you haven't been there yet, you should. So here, if you watch the catcher's mitt, I know you can't hear the audio in the video, which is sad, but my computer's not fast enough. If you watch the batter, the catcher reaches out and the batter hits the glove right there. You see the glove just drop down. It's a very obvious thud and before the metal hit, so that we have catcher's obstruction, and the catcher just kind of knows it right away. That's what the point down is, catcher's obstruction, catcher's obstruction. And in this scenario in high school baseball, if everybody, including the batter runner, safely advances at least one base, the obstruction is going to be ignored. If that doesn't happen, then you have to enforce the catcher's obstruction. So in this place, we have a grounder to second. We have a force play out at second base. Now we have to enforce this rule. So time. We're going to get everybody's attention, make sure they're all looking at me, make sure they all look at me. The runner kind of stops. Everybody's looking. We have catcher's obstruction. And by rule, you're at second and you're at first. And you go back and get ready for play. Now, if this one, let's say that he hits a fly ball and we have a runner tagging in this scenario and the run comes across, we still would have to enforce the obstruction first, but the coach has a choice. In this scenario, after we enforce the penalty, if the coach would rather take the result of the play as opposed to the penalty, he can request that. That is the time that in our rules that it states that he can come out and request the results of the play instead. So let's watch this one more time. So be confident with what you're saying and with what you're pointing, and it'll all make sense. All right, last one comes from Dawson. Again, sorry for the chain link, but that's the scenario that they have going on there. This one's just straight up simply a timing play. So we have runner at third base and we have runner at first base. First and third, we have 2 outs and we have a steal. And I'm showing this because it's not really close, but it could be close. So we have an out call at second base. We have a runner that's trying to score home. And if y'all could hear it, even the lady in the press box was like, hey, no run scores. See, he's telling you no run scores. Make sure you don't count that run. It's just, again, just something that we do just to further clarify, communicate. make sure that you're saying, hey, no run scores. This is just really simple, straightforward, but it's one that we easily could pass on. And then, what if somebody accidentally counts that run? What if they put it on the scoreboard? What if they put it in the book? And then, less experienced people may not know this. Over communicate. This is just really straight simple. Let's watch one more time. So those are 3 plays from this week.